I would love to see an Australia versus Canada, like best of seven friendly series, call it like the Commonwealth Baseball Cup or something like that'd be super cool because I think those would be pretty good matchups. I think we definitely got some more depth than the Aussies do, but I think it would be some good matchups that could be had there.
Welcome to episode 372 of Alberta Dugout Stories, the podcast. I'm Joe McFarland. Alberta had a prominent spot in the Australian Baseball League Awards recently. Pitcher of the Year Landen Bourassa and MVP Eric Rataczak join us in just a few minutes. But first, the news headlines, and we'll start with spring training officially being underway. Pitchers, catchers, position players, everyone is there. The first games are set to start Friday, and we'll keep you updated in future episodes on some of the performances from familiar faces around Alberta and Saskatchewan. A tip of the cap to Dogs product and friend of the show, Tristan Peters, as it's been announced he'll be honored by Chandler Gilbert Community College with having his name hung up on the outfield wall. The ceremony is set for March 9th, where he'll join current Dogs President of Baseball Operations, Tyler Hollick. In the college baseball ranks, congratulations to Nipawin's Kyle Fralick on being named the Sun Belt Baseball Conference Pitcher of the Week after an outstanding debut with Texas State. The Sylvan Lake Gulls alum threw 5 innings of 2-hit shutout ball, striking out 8 in a 13-0 romp over Niagara. Congratulations as well to Vauxhall Academy grad Johnny Volcano on being named the Great Plains Athletic Conference Player of the Week after a great opening week with Doane University. The Medisnap Mavericks infielder hit .545 with 2 doubles, a homer, and 4 RBI in 4 games while playing clean baseball up the middle defensively. A solid start to the year for Weber Academy alum Dylan Chop. Through 15 games at Trinidad State, he's hitting .268 with a homer, 2 RBI, and 8 runs scored. That homer coming over the weekend against New Mexico Military Institute. Preston Toshnik is making a name for himself in his debut season at Panola Community College. The Dogs product is 1-0 with an ERA of 3 in 3 relief outings, totaling 9 innings. He's also struck out 9 in that stretch as Panola is 10-1 to start the year. And back in Saskatchewan, a massive start to the year for Saskatoon's Casey Prychak at Wayne State College. He's hitting .467 through 4 games with a double, homer, and 5 RBI. Again, those are just some of the highlights from the past week. We know there are a ton of them happening, and we'll do our best to cover off as many as we can in the coming weeks. A little news from the CCBC is the Victoria Golden Tide are no more. The club is in fact changing its name to the Victoria Collegiate Cats, which aligns them with the West Coast League's Victoria Harbour Cats. The CCBC season gets underway March 20th. We are now into double digits in days to wait for the summer college campaign to begin. Opening day is set for May 28th in the Western Canadian Baseball League with 5 games on the sched. As always, we'll have all the updates, season previews, and much more as we get closer to the season. Baseball Canada's women's national team is heading to San Juan, Puerto Rico for a massive 5-game series to determine the final team from the Americas to qualify for the WBSC Women's Baseball World Cup. The series goes April 29th to May 3rd with the roster and coaching staff to be announced in the not-too-distant future. And some sad news from the Prairie Baseball world this week as longtime player, coach, and scout Wayne Morgan has passed away. The Saskatoon native is best known for signing players like Jeff Kent, Dave Stieb, and Lloyd Mosby for the Toronto Blue Jays, as well as Terry Poole for the Houston Astros and Willie McGee for the New York Yankees. Morgan was 81. Now on to this week's guests, and as mentioned, Alberta had some deep connections with this year's Australian Baseball League Awards. Pitcher of the Year Landen Bourassa and MVP Eric Rataczak were teammates with the Sydney Blue Sox as they fell just short of the league championship, but both were integral parts of their team's success. We'll start with Bourassa, who was rock solid in his second season in Sydney. The Lethbridge native was the anchor on the rotation, going 6-2 with a 2.31 ERA in 9 starts, striking out 59 in 62-plus innings of work. He also tossed 3 complete games. The 29-year-old was his usual self with the Winnipeg Goldeyes last summer, going 6-6 with a 4.20 ERA in 15 starts. It was great to catch up with him earlier this week to talk about all of his travels and how excited he is to watch the upcoming World Baseball Classic as a Baseball Canada alum. Landon, welcome back to the show. Thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks again for having me back.
Australian Baseball League Pitcher of the Year, Landen Bourassa. How does that sound a couple of weeks after the fact?
Yeah, it sounds all right. Like I said, it was a good winter down there and an honor to be named as such.
What went through your mind when you found out that you were getting the award?
I mean, it was like 2 days after we lost out and been eliminated. So it was kind of bittersweet at the same time, but it's just kind of a nice feather in your cap for the hard work in the year and all the like I said, the pitching coach and our manager and everybody who just worked so hard to give me the opportunities to make it happen. I mean, that was yeah, definitely a team award, even though it's got my name on it.
What was working for you from a pitching perspective? When you look at the numbers, you go, okay, he was balling out there. That was a pretty good winter down south.
Yeah, honestly, the big thing is I went down there with a couple intentions of just trying to throw more sliders, more curveballs. I mean, I've been so heavy with sinkers and changeups my whole life, and I just said, hey, I've got these pitches too, and if I'm really going to be effective at a high level, I need to use more than just half the arsenal. So that was kind of the big element, and fortunately for me, just I really love that schedule of the league where you're pitching once a week, kind of. So for me, it was every Friday night I'd pitch, and it just puts you on a really good schedule for the rest of your routines and for working out. And fortunate for me, I'd put in a little bit of work back here in Manitoba before I went out with Ben Onishko on some different things and up the velocity a little bit. And like I said, that was just kind of huge to have that extra little jump and just better use my arsenal. And like I said, it kind of all just came together.
Talk about that cadence a little bit because it's almost like going back to college to a certain extent, isn't it?
Yeah, it absolutely is. I mean, it's the exact same schedule, and um, I really enjoy that because I think I'd be hard pressed to go to other leagues, maybe some in Latin America or something, and be totally comfortable throwing 70 innings between November and the end of January. But being that you can do it at a different pace down in Australia, it makes a lot of sense. And just that's what that league has been tremendous about is promoting the life experience, but also you can go down there as a pitcher, get plenty of opportunity, but also still have time to develop and get stronger. So, like I said, I just use that to the best of my abilities and use the resources around me, and super fortunate with how it worked out.
Paint us a little picture for us because a lot of us here in Canada probably can't really wrap our heads around playing ball in Australia, but what's the vibe like down there? How cool is the ball down there? And just sort of the overall experience from your perspective.
Yeah, I mean, it's unique, but I always tell people that it's more similar to Canada than the US is, right? Like Australia and Canada have so many commonalities. I think, especially with the way that we look at sport, I think is super similar, right? Where you're in the States and everything's very industrial when it comes to sport, but between Australia and Canada, I mean, especially a sport like baseball, that's very much so recreational at most levels.
Mm.
And for them to have, a professional league at the highest level in some of the nicest cities in that country, um, getting to fly around week to week and go visit some of the best cities in the world. Honestly, I mean, it's such a blessing. And, um, the weather, that's kind of well, we don't have to really go into the details there just because I know how cold it gets here back home and seeing my family struggle through the cold weather and living life that way. And I'm at the beach pretty much every day. But yeah, like I said, that's just one of the benefits of being able to get an opportunity down there.
Do you have a favorite spot in Sydney? You've been down there a couple of years now.
Oh yeah, I mean, for anybody who's listened to the podcast that's been around, I think Cronulla Beach was pretty sweet. Really, really liked that area. Coal Cliff, like going south of the city a little bit, and then we went up to Nelson's Bay, which is kind of north of the coast a little bit, and just unbelievable. I mean, it's hard to beat. Like I lived in California for a few years, and I mean, Sydney beaches are kind of undefeated in my book.
Very cool. You mentioned the championship run, like you said, a little bittersweet because you didn't get to hoist the trophy, but at the same time, getting to see that team rise up and do what it did. How impressed were you with the team when you look back on the season you had?
Yeah, I mean, we were such a good team, and it's really unfortunate how it shook down and really just kind of got hampered by injuries kind of from the start on and really powered through for the first half. And then the second half, it kind of felt like we slowed a little bit of momentum. Still had plenty of guys step up and take some big swings and have some big outings on the mound, but it takes the whole roster to get it done, right? You need that depth if you're going to be playing a championship series. And like I said, the team we went up against, like they had really built in a lot of depth and had some really good players and some late additions for them. And it was a really good series. I mean, one of the fun quirks of the ABL is sometimes things don't really seem like they make sense, but I understand how it works there where we got walked off on a home run at home in game one. So it's things like that were kind of new to me. But at the same time, just really good experiences. And you understand that like everyone in that league does the absolute most to to promote it, and they're kind of at a different phase this year for what the league's going to look like moving forward, as opposed to how it's been in the past. And like I said, there was just such a concerted effort to make it work. Even though there was a reduction in teams, I think it honestly kind of concentrated the talent pool of Australian players, and so it kind of changed some of the facing of the league that way. But like I said, it's just both years I've gone down there. It's been such a great experience, and both years for different reasons. But at the same time, like I said, to be at my age and still be playing baseball and getting opportunities like that, I'm super fortunate.
Mhm. Absolutely. One of the guys that you got to be teammates with this year also has some ties back here in Alberta. Eric Rataczak named MVP this year for the
Yeah.
league. What did he mean for that team?
No, I mean he was just a beast in the middle of the order. Like that guy hit the baseball extremely hard all the time. It seems, like there's a reason why he's got a little bit of time in Double A with the Marlins and as kind of the track record of hitting over the last 4 or 5 years that he does. Because I mean he works. He just puts in the work. He figures out what works for him and how he needs to go about his business, the pitches he can handle, the pitches he needs to lay off. And he did such a good job of refining that this winter. And oh man, I mean, him and I we talked extensively about the WCBL and how much of a good time he had in Brooks. Like he didn't have anything bad to say about the league. Like for where he was at in his career, and I know for me, when I was in my first couple of years in junior college, coming back and playing in that league, like it was just so beneficial to both of us, and really helped us kind of get our footing in terms of that college baseball landscape and how to have success and how to handle that. And it's just pretty cool to see that because you don't really expect to hear that when you're that many thousands of miles away from home. But like I said, he had nothing but great things to say about his time up there and really enjoyed the league top to bottom.
Well, and it's kind of an interesting one because I remember chatting with him the first time around, and he made mention of like he kind of went to Brooks on a bit of a whim. Like he was almost thinking about quitting baseball at the time, and it kind of lit a fire under his rear end to a certain extent, and made him go, okay, well this can be fun to a certain extent. It sounds as though he's in a pretty good spot, isn't he?
Yeah, like he's definitely he's earned everything that he's gotten in the game of baseball, and like just a wild story, right? With just getting the diabetes diagnosis and that really turned his career around because then he could get his nutrition and his body in a place that he needed to be, and just turned into a beast when it comes to hitting baseballs. Because I tell you, he hit a couple balls this winter. You just blink and they're 40 feet over the batter's eye in center field, and it's like, okay, that's some big league power. It was pretty impressive to see at times.
Unreal. Not only were you obviously in Australia, but let's reflect a little bit on your time in Winnipeg this last summer as well. What was working for you? How happy are you with your performance there?
Yeah, I mean, it was another good summer. I mean, in terms of like our team success, we didn't quite have it, and I missed a month with pneumonia of all things, right? To in the middle of the summer, you just miss a month out of the season was definitely something new to me. But um, in a sense, I'm kind of thankful for that because really it allowed me to be fresher, I guess, going into winter ball, and was able to pitch as well as I did down there. And like I said, Winnipeg's just such a unique experience when it comes to the indie ball landscape where there's so many places that we go and we play, and there isn't a true fan base like there is here.
Mhm.
And so every time, whether we've been on the road for 3 games or 6 games, everybody's always excited to get back here and play in front of the home crowd. Like it's just an electric atmosphere. And I mean, to anybody listening that hasn't, been out here for a game, like I had no idea that there was even an independent team in Canada, let alone one that had such a raucous fan base and such an awesome game atmosphere
Mhm.
until I was basically asked to play for them. Right? I had really didn't know that was a thing. So I tell you, it's just great. There's great opportunities out here. There always has been, and like I said, just fortunate to have played for them as long as I have. And um, yeah, like I said, tough summer in a sense, but at the same time, you make it through 1 year at a time when you're playing independent professional baseball. And like I said, fortunate enough to make it through another one.
It's wild to think that you barely knew that it was there was summer ball out in Winnipeg, and now here you are 5 years. It's kind of like almost the home away from home to a certain extent, and you're really enveloping it too. I know that you've been doing a little bit of coaching out there as well. You've mentioned, what's that mean to you be able to give back to the game now in your home country and be able to maybe inspire that next generation of kid to lace them up and give baseball a try?
Yeah, I mean it's such an honor. Like it really is, and I've been fortunate enough, right? Like with some of the the Baseball Canada opportunities and be able to travel around a little bit, like you just see how baseball develops and how it works in different countries. And I think sometimes in Canada we can get um, so kind of fed into that U.S. system, right, where everyone um, feels like they need to head down south to really be productive in their careers. And I think it's pretty amazing that we're starting to show more and more that isn't necessarily the case. That the game is growing here, and I know that there's such an interest, and especially out here in the prairie provinces, like for us in Manitoba, it can be difficult with our high school athletes to find really high level competition for them to play because basically we've got to travel extensively either east, west, or south in order to find that. But I think, and I don't know how much I'm at liberty to say, but there's going to be some really, really good opportunities coming up here in the next couple of years with some new developments um, that are just very exciting. And I think my goal as now I've hopped in the role of being the player development director right here for our training academy. And the biggest thing for me is making sure that our top players don't feel the need to go elsewhere in a sense. Like it's because we're going to have absolutely everything that anybody else in the country has from a facility standpoint, from a coaching staff standpoint, especially. Like there's numerous pro players that are in here every single day that our athletes get to work with and are exposed to. And it's just really exciting. It's an exciting time in Manitoba just because traditionally, and I think this is no secret to everybody, but Manitoba's never really been a baseball power. So I think the opportunity that we have to really grow the game, grow the interest, and kind of put ourselves on the map nationally and draw some attention to the talent that's coming out of the prairie provinces like that, I think it's a really cool opportunity.
It's interesting you mentioned that because there's a guy who just made his MLB debut this last year, Tristan Peters from Winkler, Manitoba, as an example. But how important in your eyes is it to maybe facilitate that, whether it's a Ben Anishko, whether it's a Tristan Peters, those guys who can kind of show, hey, there is a pathway to getting to not just, make it up to Pee Wee or whatever, but you can go and play legitimate college baseball. Hey, you got a legitimate pathway to go play pro ball and go to the highest level if you want, and you can be from Manitoba too.
Yeah, and I think fortunate enough for us now that we started to ramp up things indoors when it comes to live ABs and bullpens. Like this past week, we had two of our athletes throwing 90 miles an hour or above, and I think some of the guys that have worked within our program for years have said we've never had anyone do it before, let alone two in the same week and in the same group of athletes. So I tell you what, like I'm born and raised in Alberta and still have some allegiance and love just how competitive that province is with baseball. But Manitoba is my home now in a sense, and there's some really exciting things being built out here. And like I said, I think it'll be cool because we'll be taking this team out to Lethbridge for the Road to Okotoks qualifier,
Cool.
which is it's kind of bittersweet because I'll be playing somewhere at that point, so I won't necessarily be at the tournament specifically, but organizing it as best I can, helping with that and the roster. Like it's going to be a really competitive group, and I think kind of become full circle with my career and being involved at the youth level a bit too now. Is it'd be a really good opportunity for some of those athletes to surprise some people, and it's fun for me as a coach because I think I get to see myself in some of the athletes where everyone that we've got is pretty much going to start at the junior college level. And once you get in at the junior college level, it's just a matter of the work you put in, the company you keep, and the habits you have, and what the development looks like. So it's just, just trying to provide and afford opportunities to the athletes here. And like I said, there's even already like in the first week of college baseball, like Cody Gunnarsson, who's an alumni of ours playing out of UNC Charlotte, hit 2 home runs on opening day. Like there's some really good players out there that have come through this program, and it's just going to be fun to watch over the next few years, and just an honor to be involved with it.
And you're not necessarily that far away from, you mentioned the JUCO route, but you've got, North Dakota right below you kind of thing. Like it's not like they have to go millions of miles away kind of thing to go and ply their trade. If they really want to chase it, they can hop back home for a little while if they need to kind of thing.
Yeah, no, and there's like with the North Dakota junior colleges, they basically offer the dollar at par, and you can get in-state tuition. Like there's some really good opportunities in that sense, and talking with Bergman and Hubka and Coach Mack and everybody that's out at PVA, like there's some really good opportunities too in the CCBC for our athletes, and so just trying to open their eyes to what's available to them, and really there's so many different paths they can choose, and it's just about finding the best fit for our athletes. So anyway, totally getting sidetracked talking day job stuff right there, but that's just kind of what's exciting and on the go right now.
I love hearing about it because, again, as you know, somebody who's been watching the baseball scene in Alberta for as long as we've watched it, and obviously getting a chance to now move into Saskatchewan. And I'm not saying we're expanding to Manitoba anytime soon, but we've had that conversation at the same time. As you know, there's the prairie provinces. There's something special going on here, and it's people like you, I think, that allow that to happen because, again, bringing some of those people who've been through it, who have that high level experience, and can expose those kids to the opportunities that are present, that's a good thing for the game. And so kudos to you for enveloping that and really bringing that to light for a lot of kids out in Winnipeg.
Yeah, no, and like I said, I can't take too much credit there because that's in part that's on our director John Ali for making it all happen, and like I said, having guys like Ben Onishko around too. Like we work together on a daily basis with our team and the pitching staffs, and he just has done some absolutely phenomenal work. Like as far as I'm concerned, he could hop into a major league organization and be a minor league coach at pretty much any level. Like he just gets it to such a high degree and is so targeted with his work and how he communicates with the athletes. Like it's just been really fun to watch, and honestly, just kind of amazes me. We're like, wow, these athletes have such great opportunities in front of them to work with. So it's pretty exciting.
Very cool. Couple more for you before we let you go, Landon. First off, just being able to, you mentioned travel the world, get to see different
Yeah.
sights and sounds, whether it be for Canada, whether it be going down Australia. Do you have a favorite moment or a highlight or something that really stands out to you as being like, okay, this is pretty cool that I'm getting to do this at 29 and still throwing a baseball, but also seeing the world at the same time?
Yeah, I mean, I think just this past year as a whole, I think starting the season, even before or after the Australian League wrapped up at the end of last year, um, early this year going to Mexico City, playing in the Baseball Champions League, representing the American Association. That was a pretty cool opportunity to be able to see that. And I mean, Mexico City is basically a big league stadium. Like that's an incredible space. If anybody hasn't seen it, check it out, look it up, because I mean that's just as good as it gets when it comes to high level baseball. And then playing the year out in Winnipeg, and then winding up back down in Sydney again. Like I think, well, even the kind of in the middle there being down in Florida with Baseball Canada until Copa America got canceled, but
Mhm.
just the opportunity to play in 4 or 5 different countries there potentially. Um, I'm just fortunate, like I said, that the longer I've stayed in this game, it seems like the better the opportunities get. And I'm just, looking to continue that track record and continue to have, a great time doing it and utilizing the game to get some more life experience and just even just meeting and networking with the guys at Baseball Canada or some of the athletes that I compete against. Like that's just been such an honor too, because at some point we're all going to be working together, right? I don't think all of us are going to be able to play into our 50s. So
You never know. We can always hope.
yeah.
Mentioned playing for Baseball Canada. You didn't get a chance to suit up because of what happened with the one tournament, but you've had been able to play in Pan Ams. What's that meant to you being able to rep the Maple Leaf?
Yeah, it's huge. Like that's the highlight of the career, I think, and it's such an honor. And I think when you get a group of guys, together, and you have that same common goal, and you don't even have to speak about it. Like everyone just knows exactly what the goal is and what everyone's intentions are, and it's just to be the best and represent our country as well as we possibly can. And I'm so excited for the WBC to be able to watch those guys and just cheer them on, because I think like that's a pretty good looking roster. I think you look at it, and I mean I basically played against the entirety of Team Australia this winter, and so I was telling them, I was like, man, I would love to see an Australia versus Canada like best of 7 friendly series, like call it like the Commonwealth Baseball Cup or something. Like that'd be super cool, because I think those would be pretty good matchups. I think we definitely got some more depth than the Aussies do, but I think it would be some good matchups that could be had there.
That would be so much fun. I'm all for it. So when Baseball Canada comes calling with some ideas or needing some ideas, just call Landen Bourassa. He's got them all planned out. I love it. Final question for you. It's kind of a spin on a question that I've asked you in the past, but if you could go back in time and chat with former you about where you're at now, would former you believe some of the things that you've been able to do?
Uh, Likely not. I think I would have said, yeah, I'm going to give it, going to give it everything I have and the best I've got and see where it winds up. I don't think I could have kind of drawn out this map for it. And I think it's something that I would kind of include in that conversation with myself and things that I've told, other players, especially now with how short the MLB draft is there's more than one way to make a career out of baseball. And it's not just making it to the big leagues. And I think that that's something that, especially when I was in college or when I was younger, you kind of see that as the only real path. Um, but once you get in the game and get, fortunate to have some opportunities afforded to you, you start to realize that there's a few ways you can make a living and really do this long term. Takes a lot of hustle, takes a lot of work, and some luck, of course. But ultimately, it's just amazing, how this game can open doors for you.
Well, it's been amazing being able to catch up with you again, Landon. Congratulations on the ABL Pitcher of the Year. Congrats on all the success of 2025, continued success as we head towards 2026. And again, thanks so much for joining us here on the show.
Yeah, Joe, thank you again, and I appreciate everything that you're doing for baseball in the Prairie Provinces and continuing to rep Alberta the way you do.
And we'll wrap up this week with the ABL's Helms Award winner as league MVP Eric Rataczak. Hitting in the middle of the Sydney order, the former Brooks Bombers All-Star and Miami Marlins prospect hit .336 with 7 homers and 27 RBI in 38 games, finishing in the top 3 in almost every major offensive category. The 25-year-old Minnesota native split last season between High A and Double A in the Marlins system, hitting a combined .226 with 6 homers, 40 RBI, and 10 stolen bases in 81 games. He's looking forward to moving up the depth charts and making a push to the big leagues. Eric, welcome back to the show. Thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Australian Baseball League MVP Eric Rataczak. How does that sound after a couple of days of getting to soak it all in?
Good, yeah. Couldn't say you didn't have a productive offseason, so.
What went through your mind when you found out you were winning the award?
I was surprised they gave it to American. That's what I thought. But no, I was honestly surprised to beat out the other two guys. They had put together really, really good seasons, and playing against them was honestly like, these guys are, every time they come up, they're kind of the problems. And so to be in that conversation with them, let alone win it over them, means a lot.
What was working for you during the season that allowed you to put up the kind of numbers that you did?
Just kind of nothing specifically that I can really put into words too well. Honestly, I just think taking at bats and at bats and at bats and just getting better over the course of time, just doing it a lot.
Mm-hmm. Was that a kind of a mindset going into the off season? I know for a lot of guys, it's like, hey, it's time to unwind. Hey, it's time to, maybe get back to a couple of different things. Not a lot of guys say, especially in the minor leagues, hey, you know what? I'm gonna play another season of ball here during the winter.
No, absolutely. That was the entire mindset. I don't know off the top of my head exactly what my ABs and games played was for the Marlins this year, split between High A and Double A, but it was a fair bit short of what you would consider a full season, just based on where I was at depth chart wise and who was injured and who wasn't and all that and whatnot. So I thought in my, the organization kind of agreed that it'd be good for me to get more at bats. The age and physicality for me is already fairly developed, and so it's just kind of refining the in-game stuff, and the best way to do that is by being in-game and playing games. And I am kind of the mindset that as long as, I'm not getting any younger, and as long as I'm healthy and not injured, get as many games in as possible. No reason to be wasting these years sitting on the couch.
Mm-hmm. And obviously it's one thing to be just playing games. It's another to be doing meaningful games as he did with Sydney, helping them get to the championship series. I know you guys fell a couple of games short there, but what was that experience like, getting a chance to play some meaningful baseball during the off season?
Yeah, really cool. Only 4 teams in that league, and it's primarily made up of Australian guys, and they've all played around each other a lot. So they kind of know each other and have a feel for who's who. And with that comes the pride that's tied up in it. And so it's almost like playing high school sports, but just on a professional stage in their country, where the rivalries are such that it's playing against guys that they've all played with before and that they know and that they want to beat because they're buddies, or maybe they're not buddies. And that part of it is really cool. It gets lost a little bit sometimes in minor league ball with just the scope of pro organizations and how big they are. It's a lot bigger, and this was a more intimate situation with countrymen that wanted to beat each other.
Mm-hmm. You did get to have one familiar face kicking around from Alberta. Happens to be a guy by the name of Landen Bourassa. When I mention his name, what comes to mind?
Big Maple. That's what comes to mind. No, I mean, he shrugs it off, but coming from affiliate ball, and I got to believe coming from anywhere else too. I mean, we're all pretty used to seeing if a starter goes 6 innings, that's about as far as they ever go based on pitch counts and inning counts and what the organization wants for him and stuff. And he would just roll out game after game and go at least 7, if not 8, and many times 9. And he'd do it in less than 100 pitches and induce the most amount of ground balls I've ever seen. I don't know how college and COVID and everything kind of shook out in an unorthodox way for him. So never got his foot in the door affiliate-wise, and that's a shame because he is a phenomenal pitcher and was up to 96 one of the games, and velo's not even his strong suit. So wherever he'll end up playing this year, he's going to do really well, and good as he is in the mound, he's an even better person.
Mm-hmm. Him and I were talking earlier in the week about the relationship that you guys were able to kind of coerce over the last couple of months here. And the fun part was you guys got to exchange stories about Alberta too. I mean, talk about being able to have kind of a piece from home or a piece from your past right at your doorstep in Australia.
Yeah, really cool. Baseball's a small world. The more you play, the smaller it gets. And yeah, obviously Landon had played for Lethbridge and was familiar with the WCBL. And I don't know, not a whole lot of people are in the baseball world. It's people know of it, but it's not too many people that have played there, and fewer even still that grew up there. So it was good to have a laugh about some of those teams, some of those towns, and some of the traditions, the league traditions, whether it be kind of the Fort Mac trip or the Brooks 20 to 30 game because the wind's blowing out and it's 350 to center there or whatever. But yeah, it was pretty cool to have that kind of connection 10,000 miles away or whatever it may be.
For sure. Obviously, you mentioned it. You're coming off a solid year in the Miami system, getting up to Double-A, getting a chance to taste that. How happy were you with your performance when you were on the field?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of the same thing that I said before with just getting better over time. Like the first month of the season last year, thrown into the fire and was striking out a lot at the beginning of the season and just had to fight to make mental and physical adjustments throughout the season, and kind of started to click down the stretch and was able to get moved up when all the draft and all that happened and stuff gets shuffled around. So grateful for that opportunity, and then to be able to get my feet wet in that next level. So hopefully I can kind of hit the ground running with it this year. But yeah, was just trying to get a little better each day.
For sure. Walk us through sort of that conversation as the season ends and you're planning on going to Australia. Like, were there specific things that you were wanting to work on? Was it a matter of minor adjustments? Was it a matter of overhauling anything? Or was it, walk us through sort of what that exit conversation was like so you could get yourself better prepared heading into 2026?
Yeah, none of it was major overhaul. Like I said, kind of with the age and the physicality and everything, kind of the tools, not tools I want to say, but like the player kind of type that I am is pretty set and on its way in terms of the development phase at this point. It's really just kind of fine tuning the in-game approach stuff, the in-game, understanding pitch sequencing, understanding how they're trying to attack you and how your body moves in order to counteract that. Which isn't always, looking at data on a chart and taking swings off the machine. It kind of just takes time and reps off of live arms. There were a few specific things that they targeted for me. I mean, nothing super interesting. They wanted my hard zone swing rate to be higher. They want everybody's hard zone swing rate to be higher, things like that, kind of focusing on, they call them the big three. Everything they do, much to my appreciation, is based it's kind of process based. They like ex-WOBA. They focus on how you get there, not just the end result. They don't really care if you hit 300 as long as you're hitting the ball hard in the air and doing things right. So they really just wanted me to get more opportunities to refine that ability and to improve on it.
Mm-hmm. I'm curious, we haven't had a really good chance to chat since you turned pro. Has there been anything that's really kind of caught you by surprise over the last couple of years? Anything that you've kind of went, okay, now I get this whole switch over from college to the pro ranks kind of thing?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think one of them, well, kind of 2 in 1, is bunting and defense. Bunting is much less common in pro ball, and you get there and you see why. It's because the gloves on the field, especially in the infield, you're giving away outs when you do that. And in college, you might be able to put more pressure on a defense. But that kind of rolls into the next one, which is men. The defense, if you hit the ball on the ground, it's an out just about every time. It doesn't even really matter unless it's 110, one hopper through the hole, But the defense, I remember playing in Appleton against the Brewers affiliate up there, and I don't think there was a ground ball through the infield the entire series. And that, in college, the lower, everyone, I think a lot of the fans don't, especially the old school fans, don't appreciate the launch angle, exit velo turn the game is taking, although I would argue that it's not even a turn. It's kind of just been what people have been trying to do forever. It's finally just quantifiable. Mm-hmm. But you need to do that when the defense is that good. You can't make your living on line drives and ground balls anymore because they're going to be outs. Well, line drives not necessarily, but if you don't do damage when you have the opportunity to, then the defense and the pitching is going to get outs before you have the chance to. So you better slug. It's kind of what it comes down to.
Absolutely.
But yeah, it's kind of hard it's understandable that some fans don't fully grasp that, because it is kind of hard to understand the difference until you've been in both and seen both.
For sure. With all that in mind, and obviously the adjustments that were being made during the offseason, hitting the ground running, you're down south now, getting a chance to take part in another spring training and get yourself acclimatized to another season of ball here. Do you have any goals or expectations for yourself heading into this season?
All comes back to the age for me. I'm 25 going into this year, so expectations are no longer kind of regarding development. They're regarding performance. And so every year the expectation is to be in the big leagues. And if you're not in the big leagues, what are you going to do to get there?
So what are you planning on doing to get there in your eyes?
Slugging. Just said it. It's the name of the game. So hopefully, being able to use my physicality and my maturity physically and mentally to be able to put a big part of the bat on the ball and send it a long ways.
Mm-hmm. I always ask this of guys who are kind of on the cusp, like they're right there, it's within reach. Have you allowed yourself to start thinking about that potential of getting that call to the manager's office at some point and getting that call to the bigs?
Yeah, it's impossible not to. You'd be lying if you said that you hadn't. But it's a bit of a trap, It's something that's so important, so meaningful, and like you said, so close. And you could argue that, you're visualizing or you're, mentally preparing or whatever. But at the end of the day, it's kind of just a daydream until it becomes reality. And so, there are times when you kind of just drive, maybe you're driving in the car and you start thinking about it for whatever reason, and it's impossible not to. But at the end of the day, you got to stay focused on what you're doing now and not get too far ahead of yourself. So I try not to, which is not to say that I always am successful in that.
Totally understandable. A couple more for you before I let you go, Eric. First off, you've also been able to share some of your journey as a ball player living with diabetes. And I know we chatted about that. You had a great interaction with Ian and his family a while back when you were in Brooks. What's that meant to you on a personal level to be able to share that experience and maybe provide a bit of light for some of those young kids who might be out there who are living with the same kind of thing you are?
Yeah, something I talk about a lot in baseball and sports is, finding your why. When you play so much, and you get to a level where it kind of becomes your job and it's every day. It can get slow and it can get kind of dragged sometimes. And the thing that keeps you coming back is they call it your why, what you play for. The reason that you keep showing up and you keep playing the game. And everyone, there's a lot of them for me, but that one has really helped kind of from a non-personal ambition standpoint solidify my why in the game, to be able to see kids like that, like Ian's kids, and like, there's so many of them that you don't even know and you wouldn't even recognize that come out, whether it be on Instagram and shoot me a message or in game, say I saw your pump or I saw your Dexcom or whatever. Mm-hmm. And that part of it's really cool because I think gives me a chance to be a role model to those kids who may not necessarily have a ton, of diabetic role models. If they're able to see that and to take motivation from it, that just makes my playing all the more worthwhile. And so it does help me show up to the field some days, for sure.
Final question for you here, Eric. It's been quite a ride for you from Brooks and our first conversation, it feels like all those years ago, and now you're knocking on the door of the bigs. If you go back in time to maybe just before that road trip north of the border, could you have ever imagined the things you'd get to see and do in such a short amount of time?
No, absolutely not. It kind of goes back to what we were just saying with, not getting too far ahead of yourself. I think that is part of the success that I was able to have, is that I truly didn't ever have these I'm not going to say dreams, but expectations. There weren't that wasn't the expectation, with some guys. It's the expectation, and I think that makes it more difficult. Before coming north to Alberta, I was in a mindset of I had essentially retired from college baseball and was thinking, this is just another chance for me to play one more summer of baseball. Let's have fun and make it a good one. Might as well go out as strong as I can. And I think it's that exact mentality that allowed me to have the performance I had there, which then carried the same. Every year it's been the same for me. It's basically, once you get up to a certain age and you haven't signed a big contract, you're on the shopping block every year. But for me, felt like I was on the shopping block from the start of college baseball, from the end of high school, And so just taking it 1 year at a time and saying, do everything I can with this opportunity that I have in my hands in front of me solidly right now, and not getting too caught up in what may come down the pipe in the future, I think allows you to really kind of be present and give your best performance.
Absolutely. Well, Eric, again, congratulations on the award. Congratulations on all the success you've had over the last couple of years, continued success here in spring training and all year long. And again, thanks so much for joining us here on the show.
Yeah, thanks, Joe.
Thanks again to Landen Bourassa and Eric Rataczak for joining us this week, and thanks to all of you for downloading and listening. It's been an incredible first few weeks of 2026 here on the show, as we've had a couple of banner months already. Just goes to show that excitement about baseball in this part of the country continues to grow. As always, a tip of the cap to our platinum supporters, the Okotoks Dogs, Under the Lights Sports and Entertainment, and the Western Canadian Baseball League for their continued generosity in helping us tell the game stories in our province. If you'd like to join our roster of tremendous teammates in either Alberta or Saskatchewan, drop me a line at joe@albertadugoutstories.com and we'll find a fit for you and your organization. Until next time, thank you for all of your support online, on social, and on air of Alberta Dugout Stories.